What software do you use to reverse engineer then? Because I think you don't use either, right?
Correct. I'm the absolute stone ager who uses radar too.
Radar. I think I have heard of that once when I tried to get into it, and it was like it's open source, right?
Yeah, it's just a command line
Yeah. Yeah.
environment, I guess.
Yeah. And you managed to do all of your work like that just through the command line? There's no
Yeah.
GUI?
I mean, there is like a command line GUI based on N curses or whatever. Like it can actually capture clicks from your terminal window. But
Oh.
like I don't use that.
Wow, so everything is so there's no like because I know in IDA you can when you decompile something, then you have like a tree with all the like
Yeah.
functions. You don't have any of that.
Radar has that. Like you can analyze a function, you can display a graph view, but it's just like ASCII art. And most of the time I don't use that. It's like if I know that, like for example, if I have a function call with specific values and I just want to know where it ends up, then I will do that. And then it's something like you type AF, enter to analyze the function, and then you do like AGF, I think, for the graph view, and then you can just follow the edges that you want. But yeah, most of the time, I'm interested in like thoroughly reverse engineering a given piece of code. And then what I do is just I print just the entire function in assembly, copy that out to my text editor, comment it all out, and then group like a couple statements together and write lines of C or C++.
Okay, so you're doing what you said, the Stone Age. Is that what you called it?
Yeah. I'm just doing it manually, and
that seems crazy.
I got to try IDA at some point. It didn't help me the way I had hoped it would, because I mean, I've also written a certain tooling, like I guess the one I'm most known for is extracting C++ type information from the iOS kernel cache. Where, yeah, I just get all the vtables, all the virtual methods, all the class names, etc. Because the first time I was looking at the kernel extension, I was doing all of this manually. I was like finding every vtable manually, every vtable entry. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. And so I wrote a tool for me to do it.
You wrote a tool. Is it open source?
Yeah, it's open source. It's called IOMeta.
IOMeta. Okay. I'll link
and
that.
it just depending on when the people watch this, the current master branch I think is still broken on the latest 2 versions, but there's a work in progress branch.
Okay.
So if that still exists by the time you check it out, then maybe you should use the work in progress branch.
Okay.
If the work in progress branch no longer exists, then you can probably use the master branch again. But that's one of the many things on my to-do list that you need to catch up with.
Does work take a lot of your time? Like your actual job?
Yeah. Yeah, but I'd like to dedicate more time to it, even because, yeah, too much of my time is taken up with, I want to say, switching mindset between small tasks. I don't know if you have this thing, but if you have 5 tasks that all take like half an hour to do, where, it's like, I don't know, vacuuming, maybe you have dishes stacked up from 3 days or something, and just you have 5 things of those. That can fill an entire day for me, even though it should only be 2.5 hours.
Yeah. But so you do that during like, do you not have a moment where you're like, okay, from 9 to 5, I'm gonna just do my work like for my employer, and then after that I'll dedicate
No, not
time?
really.
Oh.
No, so what I do is I try and cram all the housework and other tasks, like just collecting like receipts for tax purposes and everything. I try and cram that into one day, and then on a different day, I just try and work for like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 hours, just hyper focus.
Mhm.
And then I usually get a lot more done than if I try and like have the same schedule every day, I suppose.
Because you work with colleagues to develop exploits, and I assume that you guys have to kind of like work together to create one that's functional, but you are all working on different time zones and different schedules. Then how do you manage to like work together and get something that's functional?
So most of my work actually just consists of static reverse engineering. And I can do that by myself. Like this is just staring at a computer screen and like until the assembly makes sense. And a lot of the communication is just asynchronous in group chats. And then from time to time, someone will be like, hey, let's hop on a call and we'll find a time frame that works for both of us. And then, yeah, usually those calls end up being like at least 4 hours. But also a lot of the time, it happens that like, one person will find the bug and do a proof of concept. And maybe that same person will write an exploit, maybe not. Or maybe someone else will, or like two people will brainstorm together how they could exploit this. And sometimes you also have one person writing an initial exploit that works. And then a different person comes in and optimizes the exploit and essentially rewrites everything. So most of these things can actually be done kind of solo. Like there needs to be coordination, but it's not like you spend times in like it's not like you spend a lot of time in meetings.
Okay. So everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and then if you have something that works, then you start poking at it together.
Yeah.
Cool. And do you have any guidance on what to work on, or are you just like, okay, I'm gonna look into this, give me like a month, and then if I don't find anything, I'll move on?
So there is obviously some guidance in like what capabilities we want to have, what capabilities can be sold, and among those capabilities, which have priority. And then you just look at the available attack surfaces and like, yeah, what's a feasible attack surface and what isn't. Based on that, you pick a target. And yeah, for me, it's like, yeah, I'm just going to look into this for a month, maybe 2. I'll report back when I have something or not.
Yeah.
There have also been cases where like I was reverse engineering something and it became obvious that like this would not be a viable target, even if we found something. And then it's like, okay, so we've learned that this is not a viable attack surface. And then I'm dropping it like ahead of schedule.
Yeah. Did you see a big like increase in difficulty for finding exploits, or more like finding vulnerabilities and then to create exploits in the past years? Because I feel like, at least for Apple, they've really put more money and resources into their technology security.
So the biggest change came in iOS 14. And that wasn't so much a change in, like, it wasn't a technological change. It was a change of mindset. And that was just that previously they would only patch the actual vulnerabilities. And so ever since I had started in iOS 9 through iOS 13, it was pretty much always the same. Like if you found a 4-byte overflow or even a 1-byte overflow or a use after free anywhere in the kernel, it would always be the same strategy. You would ultimately always overlay it with like a data buffer that was completely controlled, or like you'd overflow into something that had like a length at the beginning, etc., or like, and eventually you would always forge a mock port, construct a fake kernel task port, etc. And Apple patched the vulnerabilities, but they never patched any techniques, like all the heap shaping primitives. Sometimes they would be broken just through code refactoring, but in iOS 14, they actually started patching primitives. And ever since then, primitives have been more valuable, or exploitation strategies have been more valuable than the 0 days themselves. And if you follow like blog posts, etc., the amount of exploit write-ups has dropped drastically. Just because even if a 0 day is patched, people can't afford to burn their exploit strategies anymore. And so this was like iOS 14 was the biggest change. And then there have been a bunch of technical measures, like Apple has hardened the kernel heap so much. But like previously it was just, I don't know what the term outside of Apple is, like a bucket allocator, or well, Apple calls this zones, where like you have pages of memory that are just chopped up into same size chunks. And previously, if you had a C++ object of like 256 bytes and a data buffer of 256 bytes, they would go to the same zone. They could be next to one another. You could overflow from one into the other if you had a bug, etc. And Apple has gone so far as to even introduce custom compiler built-ins to segment different types into different zones. So they actually have compiler built-ins that you can give a type name and it will give you a string that describes what types of fields are in this struct or class or whatever. And so that if you have a type that has like a pointer at offset 64, that you can't overlay it with a type that has a scalar value at offset 64. And yeah, this has certainly made exploitation a lot more challenging. I'm not sure when they introduced the last of those changes, but yeah, I guess one data point is just that it's something that Apple engineers have also been bragging about. iOS 17 has been the first iOS version to not have a kernel exploit before iOS 18 dropped. Like at the time iOS 18 dropped. So But yeah, the short version is it has been getting a lot more challenging, and it started in iOS 14.
Yeah, okay. Does that kind of scare you? Like, okay, imagine this. Okay. Say there are no more vulnerabilities. Like, there's just nothing, okay? What else would you do with your like skill set? Like, do you see yourself going into defensive security? Or, well, no, actually, never mind, because there is nothing to defend. But what else would you do? If you could not do VR, then what would you do?
This is something that every vulnerability researcher asks themselves like every year.
Really?
Like, dude, when I got started with jailbreaking, I also did it in part because I felt like jailbreaks were dying. And back then it was iOS 9, iOS 10. Apple had just introduced, in iOS 9, they had introduced kernel patch protection, which was an EL3 monitor that would verify or like try and detect kernel modifications. In A10 hardware, they introduced hardware-backed, I guess a hardware feature that allows them to lock down certain parts of RAM. And, kernel patching was done. It was the end of jailbreaking as we knew it. And in the end, it wasn't that bad. And then in A12, they introduced pointer authentication, and it was the end of jailbreaking as we knew it. And then, they introduced like the page protection layer, which even if you had kernel read write, you couldn't mess with page tables anymore, etc., etc.
Mhm.
And NTE has been on the horizon for years now. So for one, at this point, I'm like, okay, I'll just wait and see. Maybe eventually, maybe Apple will just come out with a surprise and have rewritten the entire operating system in Rust. But I'm not going to hold my breath. That's one side. The other side is if this actually happens, if offensive security no longer is viable. I thought about going into like virtualization technology, where I think reverse engineering finds some application. Or just, reverse engineering general is all like I could see myself just doing some low level programming, like
Embedded?
operating system level. Potentially, yeah. But the thing is, like, even if you don't find anything with a reverse engineering skill set, you can still program. You can still. I don't know. I could even be a web developer if I had to.
Well, if you had to, but what do you want?
I certainly wouldn't want to. Like there was some point where I felt like security was no longer going to be viable in a year, and I'd have to rewrite JavaScript for some company or whatever. But yeah, virtualization is something that I could see myself going into, or just writing drivers for hardware for some company, I guess. Like you just get a data sheet and you deliver a driver. Sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably something low level, close to hardware.
Okay. I see. Tomorrow I'm doing a 4-day.
Actually, maybe also reverse engineering tooling. That's also something I've thought about, like working on a decompiler, either writing my own or joining some company that has a product. I don't
Hex-rays?
I don't know about Hex-rays because I have opinions about IDA.
Yeah, maybe you could go there and fix it. Like Geo Hut, didn't he do that with Twitter, or was meant to do that with Twitter?
Fucking Geo, man. Geo is such a meme.
What are your opinions? Off the record. Don't worry.
What he's up to.
I have a couple more questions if you still have time, because we've been almost here for 2 hours. That's going to be a lot of editing for me. But
I've got all day.
okay, cool.
How many hours do you want to make this? Do you just want to have a podcast episode that's like 7 hours?
I think it's gonna be a 2-part series, honestly. No, because I ask a question and we go into it like super deeply, and then I see my list and I'm like, shit, I have like so many other questions, but it's fine. Like, I really love it. Like, this is so interesting for me, so interesting for other people, and like this is coming at
Glad to hear it.
it's coming at a good time, because like tomorrow I'm doing a 4-day boot camp, or not boot camp, but workshop with the Blackhoodie. So I think Zhishka is going to be one of the instructors, and some other women, I didn't really remember their names, oops. But we're going to learn reverse engineering. So there's a part that's going to be on iOS, and then one that's going to be on Android as well. But yeah, so it's coming at a good time. I'm quite excited. I've never done any of these trainings at conferences. Like, do you have any opinions on that? Like, do you think that the trainings...
I've never done any of those either.
No? But do you know of the quality of it? Have you ever done, or do you recommend any reverse engineering training?
Again, I've never done any. So the way I learned reverse engineering was that I had a proof of concept for a bug that would just crash the kernel. And I had a dream. And then I would, like, 2 ends, and you got to make them meet. And I learned reverse engineering by just taking an address of where I got a panic log and an address where the kernel crashed. And I put that into my disassembler. Like, I loaded the kernel, put the address into my disassembler, and then printed the instructions and tried to make sense of them. And that's how I learned assembly. Just looking things up in the manual. So yeah, there's nothing I can say about trainings.
Like, what's the screening for vulnerability research in the employment world?
I think just having a track record.
Okay.
But I actually think that offensive security. So this is something that Halverflake. You know Halverflake?
No.
Okay, so he's also in, like, I don't know what he's doing these days, but I think he was at Project Zero for quite a while. So anyway, something that he said is that offensive security is quite unique in that it reliably delivers what it advertises. And with a lot of other fields, there's grifters. You can deliver something that looks like it works, but it actually kind of doesn't. With offensive security, either you hack it or you don't. And there's like, if your exploit is almost working, then it's not working. And so it's like, yeah, either you hack it or you don't. Okay. And I think that for vulnerability research, and like specifically, I think that makes the screening process somewhat easier. But yeah.
So you're mostly looking for people who have published work before and prove that they can walk the talk, basically.
I mean, I'm not involved in the hiring process. I imagine I don't. I suppose if you demonstrate like enough knowledge of internals, then you might also get hired even if you don't have like a public track record. Because, obviously quite a bunch of people either don't want to do anything public or they've only done things for previous employers and they're not allowed to share anything publicly. But then you probably have, or then you rely more on like what you do in a regular interview, where you try and get a feeling for the skill level and knowledge that the person has. And like, for example, if you demonstrate great knowledge of the internal workings of like the iOS kernel heap, then you can probably be like, okay, so this guy knows at least what he's talking about to some extent, and then
Yeah. Okay.
then we'll see how he does.
But yeah, so if people want to get hired for that, they mostly should have a like track record, blog posts, concepts, or exploits already. Would be better, I assume.
That's probably I want to say the easiest, but I don't know if it's easy to do that. But it's like it's probably the most solid evidence you can provide.
Yeah.
That you know what you're doing.
And so for people who want to learn like VR, I heard or read somewhere that the community can be quite elitist sometimes. That there's a bit of gatekeeping and toxicity in that world. What are your opinions on that? Do you relate? Do you think it's true or?
To a certain extent, yeah. And I think this is especially an issue for women. There's like always, because you will always get some people who are like discrediting you because you're a woman. I don't. It's a minority, but there will always be such people. And in general, there are also people who I want to say have a hardline stance of what constitutes good work. And it's like, and they're acting like, no, I'm doing the hard stuff up here and you're doing the easy stuff down there. And so you're not a real hacker. I don't know. I'm personally not interested in like competing. Like I don't want to be better than someone else. I just have things that I want to do. And like, yeah, it's like this is a thing between me and the computer, and ultimately it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
Yeah. But is there a lot of gatekeeping? Like, do people tend to not want to share too much on how they get things done?
So, in terms of information, yes, by necessity. Because, yeah, if something like it used to be only 0 days, nowadays it's even techniques where it's like, yeah, if this gets out, then it's gone. But yeah, I mean, the biggest worry is probably getting things burned. But yeah, sometimes also people bragging about things that they didn't discover, that they get, like, yeah, sometimes you have people getting access to things and then bragging about that. And then it's like, well, this wasn't, you're bragging about something that's not your achievement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, taking credit for it.
Sometimes not even taking credit for it. Sometimes just being like, hey, look, I'm part of the cool gang because I have access to this.
I see.
And yeah, it's like, sometimes I will flex on Apple employees with something specific, but I've never, I don't know, I've never been one to really celebrate myself. If I publish something, then it's like it's something like a blog post where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
something that other people would find a valuable piece of information.
Yeah, exactly. Something that you wanted to share.
Yeah. But to conclude the question of gatekeeping, I think, so in terms of not sharing information, I think that part we've gone over. I think there is certain gatekeeping, as in not recognizing you as a peer depending on what you've worked on. And for example, I could probably see a lot of people who do like binary exploitation looking down on someone who does SQL injections.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that certainly exists.
I kind of felt that actually at CCC last year with some people. I was explaining like my job, like what I do, and it was like uninterested. Like, all right, little baby, go back to your corner.
Yeah, I mean, I've done SQL injection, but it's not. Yeah, at least for me personally, that's just not really interesting anymore. At least,
Mm.
I mean, maybe if I want to have a server that's like not tied to me.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some SQL injection on like stuff that wasn't mine, but that was long enough ago that that was actually before I got into like iOS security research and everything.
Oh, proper hacker then. Proper hacker. Like on the old internet days.
When it was PHP 4.
What did you dump?
MySQL running as root.
Did you dump like what did you dump? Did you dump a database or did you update a database?
Yeah, I mean, so there were a couple of servers running cracked versions of some LAN versions of a game, like illegally. And I just had a bunch of SQL injection vulnerabilities in those. And some allowed you to update your values in the game and just cheat yourself up. So that was fun. Other vulnerabilities actually allowed you to write to files.
Mm-hmm.
And fucking MySQL running as root and everything. And it's just, you set your name to a short PHP script, and then you do a select into out file.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got PHP code execution on the server. It was fun, but it's not like it. I don't know. It's not something I'd want to do over and over again. It's like, okay, you know how SQL injections work. I feel like you hit a ceiling quite fast.
Yeah. Like you get tired of it like just a repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel that sometimes with my work, when I'm on like a new project and I'm like, okay, here we go again, looking for the XSS and the IDORs and insecure accesses, just the whole shebang. But I don't know, I still find it fun.
There is also repetition in reverse engineering. It's like, okay, buffer overflows, use after freeze, same old. Yet another C++ code base to audit, but
yeah.
I think I don't know. I mean, it's an entirely different dynamic.
Yeah, for sure. So what I think I can conclude this pretty soon. Do you want to tell me maybe what you're going to be working on next?
You mean for actual work or?
Actual work, private work, like anything that you want to share.
Oh, private work. Well, I've got a lot of blog posts to do. There's the Hexacon exploit for iOS 13.5 that was dropped as a 0-day, because that was actually a regression of a bug that had previously been fixed. And one of the jailbreak maintainers at the time just started doing regression tests after a different vulnerability had been unpatched. And he came to me like, yo, here's this kernel bug that they just unpatched. And I hadn't written, like I hadn't done, at that point I had been working on checkrain and hadn't done any kernel stuff for like half a year. So I was like, yeah, all right, I'll write the kernel exploit. And I think that was the last jailbreak that was actually dropped with an O day. And that worked on the latest version at the time. Then there's a code signing bug that was patched, I think, in macOS 11.3 that I still need to write about. That allowed you to get arbitrary entitlements. I'm going to do some more work on checkrain. Like I've been working on getting the tooling up and running again to like cross compile from Linux to macOS and iOS. And then I still want to do like, so we have a secure and enclave exploit for A10. And I still want to do exploits for A9, A8, and A7. And we know the primitives that we have available. It's just doing more reverse engineering, seeing exactly how the different ROM versions like initialize trust zone memory, etc. And like there's also some timing aspect that we need to get right and everything. It's just gonna take a lot of time.
Yeah.
Something else that I'm researching is, I don't know if you've ever put a newer iPhone into DFU mode.
No, I don't know what that is.
So it's a device firmware upgrade.
And it's
like, so there's multiple stages from which you can install a new OS. And like regularly, if you go into settings and install it from there, then it will stage everything to disk and just reboot and load it from there. If the OS can't boot, it will usually go to recovery mode, which is implemented in the bootloader in iBoot. And if even that is broken, then it will go to ROM. And that's where DFU is implemented. But you can also enter that mode manually. And for example, you have to do that to perform the checkmate exploit because it's in ROM. And Yeah, if you have an iPhone, how many iPhones have been done this? If you have an iPhone 16 Pro, I think, or newer, just an A16 chip or later, if you put it into DFU, it will not actually show up as the Apple mobile device DFU mode that previous models would. It will show up as debug USB.
Oh.
And that's a whole rabbit hole.
That's a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm currently researching.
Okay.
And I also have this archive of 90 terabytes of Apple firmwares that I want to have some like automated cataloging run through and for example, catalog every file that's in the firmware zips and then do like statistics on what are the rarest files.
Ooh, fun.
But yeah, that's.
Are you also one of the people who like to get like a really old like MacBook or something and then try to find a 0 day in I think Luca Tedesco did that at CCC last year. I have a laptop.
It wasn't even a MacBook. It's like an Apple
iBook
or
or
something.
yeah, like those big ass.
I think he was running Netscape Navigator on it.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that. It was
And
like
he
the
tried
old
to use a
one.
vulnerability, but it was like the browser was too old.
Because I have an old MacBook that I'm saving up to bring at CCC for y'all to break it if you want.
Well, no, personally, I'm not interested in old devices.
Yeah.
The oldest device that I have, hold on, that used to be my daily driver a long time ago, an iPod Touch 4G with broken glass.
Oh, the iPod Touch.
Yeah, this is on iOS 6.1.6, jailbroken, obviously. And like, I don't know, there's nothing for me left to do on this device.
Yeah. But you keep it just because it's a good memory.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when I maintained some command line utilities, and just to test whether they would work on iOS 6, I was like, all right, I'm sure I have it available. Why not? And I'm also keeping my previous MacBook. It's an early 2015 MacBook Pro. And what I'm doing with that is just install different major macOS versions, mainly to test checkrain. Maybe at some point I'll have something else to test, but yeah, that's as much use as I have for old devices. Well, I guess you could consider this old now, but.
Do you ever use it just like to read or to draw? Your iPad?
No. I can't draw at all, unfortunately. And
I can't read either.
Now that's mean. But so so there have actually been times when like it's specifically only skiing vacation when I go up to the mountains for 2 weeks, where I will take an iPad with me just to watch like Twitch.
Twitch? What do you watch on Twitch?
Mainly German streamers.
Gamers or more like programming live streams?
No, gaming. Like on Twitch, I'm not in the tech bubble.
Okay. Do you have time to game or do you just watch gaming streams?
Pretty much only watching at this point. There's like a couple if I'm lucky, it's a couple times a year that I'll play something.
Yeah.
Like this year, there have actually been 2 times where one streamer that I'm not actively watching, but that does like a lot of collabs with people that I watch, he hosted some events where he built Minecraft maps with like specific challenges, and then he just invited like 40 people, and they all try to go through, like it's a jump and run map. And after the event is over, he opens up the server for everyone to play in them. And I was like, all right, this sounds like fun. I'll try it. And then I just spend an evening hopping around in Minecraft. But then usually that's it. Or like rarely it happens that like a game comes out that I'm waiting for. And then I'm like, okay, I will reserve a couple days. Like when this game comes out, I'm just going to play this for like 4 days. And then that's it, mostly.
What games is it that you like to play?
Open world, survival, sandbox. Like Subnautica, 7 Days to Die, Stardew Valley, Terraria, Minecraft.
So those are those online games? Like, can you MMORPG? Like, can you play with other people?
So Minecraft, obviously, yes. You
Yeah.
can have servers with hundreds of people. 7 Days to Die, you're limited to a certain amount of people, but you can do multiplayer, co-op or PvP. Stardew Valley and Terraria, you can do co-op. And Subnautica has a multiplayer mod, but it's not intended to be played multiplayer.
Oh, okay.
And Subnautica is more. I think, yeah, Subnautica is one of my all-time it's one of my 2 all-time favorite games, tied with Outer Wilds, because it's just the immersion is just next level, and like the storytelling, it's so good.
I'll try it. I'll try that. I'm mostly a World of Warcraft player. I've been a WoW player for such a long time.
I never got sucked into that, and at this point,
Lucky you.
I'm good. Like, yeah, there's a couple of franchises that I never got sucked into. One of those is like the entire Nintendo ecosystem. Just because I never had a console, I've always been a PC gamer. And yeah, some other franchises where I'm like, this could potentially interest me, but at this point, the commitment would be so big that I'm like, no, I'll stay. Or like Final Fantasy is one of those. I'm like, I'm good. I've got enough games as it is.
Yeah. Takes up a lot of time.
There was a time when I was an MMO player, and I guess the one that I played the most was called Firefall. Like the chance that anyone listening has even heard of this is pretty slim. But it was an open world shooter with like very fast movement, and you had like gliders and everything. So the movement was just insane, and it made playing so much more fun. And the whole setting was like kind of an alien invasion apocalypse, where like it's the last bastion of humanity and whatnot. And that completely didn't match the gameplay, because once you reached like max level gear, you would just blast everything away solo. But it was still a lot of fun. I don't know when the last employees were fired, but I think the game service closed down in 2016. And yeah, ultimately, like the company was struggling financially, and so they brought in a Chinese investment firm as a majority stakeholder, and then they changed a whole bunch of things about the game, tried to make it more appealing to the masses and like more loot box kind of style, and then it didn't perform well, and then they decided to close the studio and focus on mining Bitcoin in Kazakhstan instead. I didn't make that up, by the way. That is actually what happened.
Oh, I thought that was a joke.
I think there may have been some stuff in between, but no, they did actually buy mining rigs in Kazakhstan. Like, can't make that shit up.
I had so you saw that I posted on Mastodon.
Yes.
Like if there were questions,
Agar.
I only got one, and that was his. What do you think of the Siguza fan club?
So, depending on how people behave, like sometimes I'm weirded out when like someone joins a Discord server and is like, Siguza, we always rooting for you. We believe since day one. And like, okay. But yeah, most of the time it's people looking up to me or like thanking me for tooling, resources I've provided, or like if they have a specific question on Discord that I answer in depth, or yeah, blog posts that I've written. And I'm very glad to see. I'm always glad to see if I had like a positive impact on someone in the scene, someone looking to get started or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like I'm glorified as a person, which I'm glad about because you shouldn't glorify people. But if my work has helped you, then that's good to you.
Yeah, I think it can be inspiring as well for some people. Like, I remember after meeting you and the others last year, I was like, oh my God, I need to start learning reverse engineering. And I did that for like a week, and then I had other stuff I had to catch up on. So, so I'm happy I have my workshop now. But it is inspiring, just to see you all so like into this work, and it's so complicated, and you guys seem to have such a good wrap around it and understand so many fundamentals and how everything works, and it's so inspiring as well.
Great to hear.
You have a bigger fan club now, plus one. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that, but okay.
I had one question as well. Someone wanted to know if you use Vim, because you've been saying you're a Nano, like diehard Nano user. Like, what's is there any reason, or?
Yeah, so the reason is when I got my first server, when I was 15 or so, I looked up how to edit the sudoers file, and it told me to use vsudo. And then I couldn't figure out how to exit it, and I opened a second SSH session and did a kill 9. And ever since then, I've been using Nano.
Oh, okay.
Because Nano, there's less to learn. Like, sure, Nano is less powerful, but I don't need an IDE on the command line. I need something that lets me edit the file, like right now.
So it just stems from the fact that at that moment in time you couldn't figure out how to close the file, and so you're like, fuck Vim.
Essentially, yeah.
I get that.
And I've actually been talking about this with Luca as well. Luca is also a diehard Nano fan, and it was the same experience for him. It was like both of us were setting up Minecraft servers.
It's funny. Yeah, Vim will do that to you, I guess. Yeah. Okay, I think I went through all of my questions. Is there anything else that you want to share with the internet?
I think anything I wanted to share with the internet, I probably already posted on like Mastodon.
Is there a
There's blog posts I want to share, but they're not done yet.
But what about like a Siguza fun fact? Something a little bit crazy that you wouldn't specifically put in an article.
Siguza fun fact.
Yeah. Give something to the people.
I can summon goosebumps at will.
What? How? Do you think of something really creepy or?
No, it's not a thinking thing. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but like it originates like between my shoulder blades, essentially. Like I can just make it. I don't know how.
Can we get a demo?
Hold on. Let's see. Does the camera even?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Does the camera even pick it up?
I can't see much. Oh. Oh yeah. Yes. I can see it.
Okay, it's very warm in here, and it's like it doesn't work as well when it's warm. And obviously, like I can't keep this up forever. But it's like, no, it's like sending waves through my body that originate between my shoulder blades. I don't know how it works, like biologically.
Everyone has a superpower. That's yours. Not VR, but this.
Useless superpower. Sure.
Do you the people around you, like, do your friends know what you do as a living?
Yeah.
Okay. Do they find it like sorcery? Like people who are not in IT, I mean.
I mean, even the people who are in IT do find it sorcery a lot of the time. But yeah, I mean, some people, mostly my family, like one of the most extreme moments I had was a neighbor like 2 years ago, where like one of the other neighbors was having like a small goodbye event because she was leaving and moving somewhere else. And one of the other neighbors, who was 80 plus years old, asked me what I do for a living. And I tried to explain it and then simplified it. And her conclusion was, oh, so you work with computers. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's like...
It's not wrong.
It's not wrong, but it's like, that's 2/3 of all jobs now, right?
True. Yeah. And explaining that to an 80-year-old must be a challenge in itself. I mean, an 80-year-old that has no tech background.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that might be funny. Imagine I'm an 80-year-old. Explain to me what you do for a living.
I find mistakes in other people's code.
But why?
So I can do things that other people don't want me to.
Are you a violent person? Are you a criminal?
No, but I'd have the capacity to be one.
Oh my god, I'm going to call 911 right now.
I don't know what happens if you dial 911 in Switzerland.
Beep, beep, beep.
You know, I would actually expect that they hook it up to something because they probably get American tourists here just doing
Sure.
911 and then like, okay, well, just redirect you to whatever.
Do you have your Swiss phone now? I can try with
Yeah, I
mine.
do.
Do you want? Should we try?
No, so the thing is, I don't want to dial it because I think there might actually be an emergency service.
I'm gonna try here. Failed.
I mean, I don't know if this looks better.
Oh no, but it was fine. It was fine anyway. But
It looked a bit more friendly. It's just like now the light's behind me.
What kind of chair do you have? Like, what's your setup like? Do you have a special keyboard or do you use the Apple one? Just the plain old Apple keyboard. Do you have a mouse or are you one of those people who don't even use a mouse? The track. Okay, so the full Apple. Okay.
I play Minecraft with a trackpad.
I started WoW with the trackpad on my laptop as well, and it was hard.
Yeah. No, for some things you need a mouse.
Yeah.
Gaming is one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, my entire setup. This is a Noble Chairs icon. Yeah.
It's comfy.
Yeah. And like with gaming chairs, it's pretty hit and miss because some gaming chairs are like, oh, we're like cool. We have a nugget holder, like a Hot Wheels style or whatever. And then there's the other type of gaming chair, which is just made for your ass to be in a chair 16 hours a day. And that's the thing I need.
Yeah. Oof, 16 hours a day. Do you like exercise? Like, do you go running sometimes to freshen up a bit or to the gym?
Not regularly, but like I've been looking into putting a home gym together. I still want to get like an exercise bike. I've been saying that for a year since I moved in here. But I have a mountain bike, and in summer, if the weather is good, I will actually go up the hill and like park the bike somewhere, there's like a Vita parkour with like 12 or 15 different posts that have like exercises printed on them.
Oh yeah.
And I will do that and then trying to build a small home gym just with like some body weight exercises.
I want that too, but I don't know. Do you live in a house or an apartment?
An apartment.
Yeah, but me too. But I don't have like I want a dedicated room for that because I want the whole whole 9 yards. I want the weightlifting area and then the running track thing and.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I just have a corner in my office.
Okay.
I would actually I do actually have some like 25 square meters that I'm not currently using. Like I would have been fine with a smaller apartment. This was just the only one that was available, and it wasn't more expensive than other ones, so I just got this.
You could turn that room into a yoga room and do some.
It's not its own room. It's just like the living room that's open to the rest of the apartment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I could put a lot of stuff there. I could certainly put a treadmill and an exercise bike and a whole bunch of other machines there, but then I'd have to buy them and like I'd have to.
Yeah.
Even just buying an exercise bike is like, oh my god, I'd have to go into this city, talk to people.
Oh, human interaction. No. Okay, well, anyways, thank you so much for your time. It was so nice talking. It was so interesting.
That was fun.
Thanks for sharing your stories and just everything and letting me poke your brain as well.
Yeah, of course.
It was really nice.
Anytime.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna enjoy this episode. Your Siguza fan club is probably more than 2 people. So
Maybe 3.
maybe 3. Maybe 3. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you again at CCC.
Likewise.
And until then, maybe I'll hit you up on Discord sometime.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, have a lovely
Right.
evening and bon
You
appetit,
too.
as we say here in France, in Belgium, but
Same
in
to you.
French. All right. Bye. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Bye.
Bye bye.